When my stepmother insisted I drink her special homemade tea right in front of everyone, I smiled, nodded, and quietly switched cups with my stepbrother when no one was looking. 40 minutes later. My name is Alex Thompson. I'm 30 years old and CEO of Thompson Industries. Thompson Industries was founded by my father, Robert Thompson. He built it from a small construction company into a Fortune 500 company over 25 years. While I was getting my MBA at Stanford, he was still involved in every detail of the company. After graduating from college, I started at the bottom of the company. My father gave me no special treatment. I worked under the same conditions as other employees, worked the same hours, faced the same challenges. After 5 years, I worked my way up to a management position through my own efforts. In 2021, my father had a heart attack. He passed away after spending 2 weeks in intensive care at the hospital. That was the most difficult period of my life. Not only had I lost my father, but I had also taken on the responsibility of running a company at 27 years old. When my father's will was read, I encountered some surprises. 60% of the company was left to me, 25% to my stepmother, Margaret, and 15% to her son, Derek. Additionally, I was appointed as CEO. Margaret had married my father 8 years earlier. At that time, Margaret was 37 years old and a former paralegal. Derek was 18, just starting college. Initially, we both tried to adjust to this new family arrangement, but everything changed after my father's death. Margaret had never been very involved in company affairs while my father was alive, but after the will, I guess different plans started forming in her mind. Derek also started working at the company after graduating from college. He was working in a junior position in the marketing department. The first warning sign came 6 months after my father's death. Margaret came to my office one day. "Alex, maybe we should make some changes in company management," she said. "You're very young and inexperienced. Maybe we should form an advisory board." "Margaret, the company is doing fine," I said. "We achieved record profits last quarter. But what's our long-term strategy? You only know the engineering side. In the business world, networking, marketing, finance, you have no experience in any of these areas." After this conversation, I began to understand Margaret's true intentions. She wanted to take control of the company. In the following months, Margaret and Derek's behavior became even more suspicious. They questioned every decision I made in board meetings and offered alternative suggestions. Derek was trying to expand his role in the company and constantly demanding promotions. A year later, the real problem began. Margaret started having private meetings with other partners in the company. She talked to them about my inexperience and expressed her concerns about the company's future. In backroom conversations, she said I couldn't carry my father's legacy, that I was too stressed, that my decisions were inconsistent. She implied that Derek would be a more stable leader. These rumors reached me too. Our CFO, David Miller, warned me one day. "Alex, be careful. Margaret is spreading rumors about you to board members." "What kind of rumors?" "About your mental health. She's saying you make too many bad decisions under stress. She's implying that Derek would be a more stable leader." This didn't surprise me much. Margaret had always been manipulative, but this time she had crossed the line. The real war began last month. I had a critical quarterly report to present to the board. This report would determine the company's next 5-year strategy. If the board approved this strategy, my position as CEO would be strengthened. If not, the management change Margaret wanted could come up for discussion. The day before the report presentation, Margaret called. "We're in a stressful period," she said. "We need to come together as a family and support each other." I didn't want to go to this dinner, but David Miller's advice was on my mind. "Don't get into an open war with Margaret. That would make you look worse. Be diplomatic." The dinner was to be held at Margaret's luxury home in Colorado. There was me, Margaret, Derek, and my father's former business partner, Thomas Wilson. Thomas was one of the most influential members of the board, and Margaret was trying to win his support. During dinner, the atmosphere was tense. Derek kept talking about the company and expressing his concerns about my strategies. "Alex, you're planning very aggressive growth," Derek said. "Maybe we should approach more conservatively. We should preserve his methods out of respect for your father." "Derek, my father also implemented aggressive growth strategies," I said calmly. "That's how the company reached its current size." "But market conditions were different then," Margaret interjected. "Now we need to be more careful." Thomas Wilson listened silently. I couldn't tell what he was thinking. After dinner, Margaret returned from the kitchen with teacups in her hands. "Special herbal tea for everyone," she said with a smile. "This tea is very good for stress, Alex. You especially should drink it. Tomorrow is a big day." When I smelled the tea, I noticed a strange odor. It looked like a mixture of lavender and chamomile, but there was another smell underneath, a sharp, chemical smell. "Where did you get this tea?" I asked. "I made it myself, special blend." Margaret kept insisting I drink the tea. "Come on, Alex, drink up. You need energy for tomorrow." At that moment, my instincts kicked in. This wasn't normal tea. Margaret's insistent attitude, the secret smile on Derek's face, Thomas watching me carefully, everything was very suspicious. "Sure, it smells wonderful," I said with a smile. I took the cup in my hand and pretended to drink it, but when no one was looking, I switched Derek's cup with mine. Derek was busy with his phone. Margaret was talking to Thomas. Perfect timing. "Very delicious, Margaret, thank you," I said, pretending to finish the cup. Derek also drank his tea. "Really very good, Mom," he said. 30 minutes later, we continued talking normally. I looked at Derek's face. He looked normal but was rubbing his eyes occasionally. 35 minutes later, Derek said, "My head is spinning a little." 40 minutes later, Derek tried to stand up but staggered. "Mom, I feel strange." 45 minutes later, Derek's speech became slurred. "What's happening to me?" he asked in panic. The color drained from Margaret's face. "Derek, what's wrong with you?" "I don't know, Mom. I can't see properly." Thomas Wilson stood up. "We need to call an ambulance." Margaret agreed immediately, but there was panic in her voice. Before Derek passed out, he looked at me. There was fear in his eyes. At that moment, I realized that Derek didn't know that Margaret knew what was in that tea. When the ambulance arrived, Derek had lost consciousness. They took him to the hospital. While waiting at the hospital, Margaret was very nervous and worried. She kept asking doctors what could have happened and how it occurred. 2 hours later, the doctor came. We detected a strong dose of benzodiazepines in Derek's blood. This is a type of sedative drug. He took a very high dose. "How is this possible?" Margaret asked, but the falseness in her voice was obvious. The doctor said it could have been taken consciously or accidentally mixed. The substance must have been in the food or drink he consumed. At that moment, I completely understood Margaret's plan. She wanted to drug me and make me miss tomorrow's meeting. Probably Derek would make a presentation in my place at that meeting, trying to convince the board about my inadequacy. But the plan backfired. The next morning, I visited Derek at the hospital. He had regained consciousness but was still very weak. "Alex," he said with difficulty, "that tea, Mom gave it to you. Why did I drink it?" "Derek, the cups got mixed up last night, I guess," I said. "But what's important is that you're okay." Derek looked at me with suspicious eyes. "Alex, was my mom trying to do something to you?" There was a long silence. Then Derek spoke. "In recent months, my mom constantly said negative things about you. She had strange plans for tomorrow's meeting, too. If you got sick or couldn't come to the meeting, I was going to present a new strategy to the board. Mom had prepared the presentation. I was going to express concerns about your mental state." "That's it. I had learned the entirety of Margaret's plan. I told Derek not to mention this conversation to his mother. I said there was a bigger plan and I needed to expose it. Derek nodded and admitted that his mother sometimes went too far. After leaving the hospital, I immediately called David Miller. "David, let's move tomorrow's meeting up. There's an emergency." "What's the problem, Alex?" "We have a serious problem with Margaret. There are things the board needs to know immediately." The next morning, Margaret was shocked at the board meeting. She didn't know the meeting had been moved up. "Alex, how's Derek? Is he still in the hospital?" "Derek is recovering, Margaret, but we have important matters to discuss with the board." When the meeting started, I explained the situation to the board members. "Last night at our family dinner, Derek was poisoned. A strong sedative was found in his tea, and from what I've learned, this wasn't an accident. It was part of a plan that Margaret and Derek had prepared to keep me away from this meeting." Margaret stood up. "This is ridiculous. Does Alex realize what he's saying?" "Margaret, Derek talked to me. He told me about the presentation he was going to make in my place." Thomas Wilson looked skeptical. "Alex, these are very serious accusations." "I know, Thomas, and I have evidence." I took out my phone and played a recording of my conversation with Derek at the hospital. Derek was telling everything. Margaret's plans, the prepared presentation, the plan to remove me from the meeting. The board members were in shock. Margaret went crazy and said this was fabricated, that I was trying to frame her. David Miller said that if this was true, it was a very serious crime. He said it was both attempted poisoning and corporate sabotage. Margaret claimed she had done nothing, that Derek might have taken drugs on his own. I calmly reminded her that she had prepared the tea, served it to everyone, and especially forced me to drink it. Thomas Wilson asked why I hadn't gone to the police if these things were true. I said I wanted the board to know first that this was a family matter, but also a company security issue. After a 2-hour meeting, the board unanimously decided Margaret's all authorities in the company would be suspended. Derek's situation would be evaluated after he recovered. As Margaret left the meeting, she turned to me and said this wasn't over, that she would resort to legal means. I said she had started the legal proceedings when she tried to poison me. A week later, Derek was discharged from the hospital. He visited me in my office. "Alex, I talked to my mom. She really planned to give that tea to you." "I know, Derek. I'm sorry, I didn't know it would go this far." "Derek, you trusted your mother too. That's normal. What happens now?" "Our company lawyers are filing a lawsuit against Margaret. You can continue working at the company if you want, but with different rules now." Derek shook his head. "Maybe I should take a break. Working here would be difficult after all this." "I understand. My door is always open." 2 months later, Margaret's case was concluded. She received a 3-year prison sentence for attempted poisoning. Derek left the company and opened a small marketing agency in California. The company became stronger. The board now had complete confidence in my leadership. My quarterly report was unanimously approved. Today, Thompson Industries is a more successful company. With the board's full support, we're implementing our 5-year growth plan. Margaret's sabotage plans made us stronger. Sometimes the biggest threats come from your family, but always staying alert and trusting your instincts can save your life. If I hadn't noticed the smell of that tea that night, I would have been in the hospital the next morning, and Margaret's plan would have succeeded. But sometimes life gives you second chances, and sometimes your enemies fall into their own traps. Margaret is now in prison, Derek is building a new life, and I continue to grow the company my father built even further. And the moment I switched those cups that night, I changed not only my own life, but the future of our entire family. Because real power isn't about defeating your enemies, it's about turning their plans against them.